the little mini bracket that we got here that Arkansas is playing in for this weekend. They got the regional this weekend. The past 2 years, they haven't been able to make it out of their own regional, just like the baseball team. Hopefully softball can turn things around this season and take down these teams to make it through. We'll get to the bracket in a second, but talking about some of these teams, Arkansas has a hard draw. They do. They got a hard draw. Look, they're the number 4 team. That ties their highest, or I guess I should say lowest, best mark in program history as far as seeding goes in the NCAA tournament. So their road to the College World Series to Oklahoma City should be relatively easy. But these teams are definitely not easy. St. Louis, Arkansas should be able to get past, but these top 2 teams really scare me. You heard on the broadcast them talking about a little bit. The 3 seed here, Indiana, the Hoosiers out of the Big Ten, were a bubble team to make it into the NCAA tournament. They made it here, and it's kind of a tale of 2 teams. As far as offensively, they're one of the best offensive teams in the country. They talked about it just a while ago. They got the top batting average and on-base percentage in the country. It starts with Taylor Minnick. She's 6th in the country in batting average with .470. That's right below Bri Ellis. So I'm not saying she's to the level of Bri Ellis is this Hoosiers player, but she's pretty good. And she's someone who, if Arkansas will face the Hoosiers, possibly if they take down St. Louis, they're going to have to watch out for Taylor Minnick to possibly get past her. That's Indiana. Oklahoma State poses a much bigger challenge for Arkansas. They're a really special team, a team that they mentioned on the broadcast there was possibly going to be hosting their own regional. Now they're in Fayetteville in Arkansas's regional. So a really tough draw. An Oklahoma State team that has been really good the past few seasons. Not as good this year, obviously. They're not hosting a regional. They're not nationally ranked. But the past 5 seasons, they've won a regional, a super regional, and they've made it all the way to the College World Series. They're a real dominant team. They're a really good team. And again, 5 straight Women's College World Series appearances. That is the case for Oklahoma State. So 2 really good teams in Indiana and Oklahoma State. St. Louis, Arkansas should be able to get past, but then you got a challenge going up against both of those 2 teams. Let's throw this away and look at the bracket as a whole. What would happen if Arkansas won their regional and advanced to the super regional? We've broke down brackets on this show before. You're probably familiar with it. You see Arkansas in the bottom left corner of the screen here. In the very top left is Arizona, the 13th seed. So it's possible that if Arkansas were to get past these teams in the Fayetteville Regional, they would advance to this spot, face off whoever wins out of the Tucson Regional, which most likely would be Arizona. Arizona is obviously the projected team. They're the ones in the Tucson Regional that is expected to win that regional and make it onto the Super Regional. If Arkansas wins, they would host another series this time in the Super Regionals, facing off against Arizona. But quickly, a few more notes before we go on what that would look like going forward. Obviously, Arkansas down here, they'd have to beat St. Louis first. And remember, this isn't it's not as perfect and organized as it is with March Madness and with basketball when you look at brackets in the softball and baseball world, because it's double elimination. So if Arkansas loses the first one to St. Louis, which probably won't happen, but if they do, then that would throw off a couple more things. Arkansas would have to kind of win their way all the way into the winner's bracket. There's a whole separate bracket from what we're looking at here. But just to make it clean and organized, this is what it would look like as far as if the Razorbacks can get past these 3 teams, if Arizona can get past those 3 teams, which obviously Arizona would have to get past Ole Miss, an SEC team, which is pretty good. They would both advance to these spots. And then the winner, which would be not this upcoming weekend, but the next weekend, the winner in this super regional would advance to this spot, which is the Women's College World Series, something that Arkansas has been right there for the past 4 seasons. They've lost back-to-back years in their regional. The 2 years before that, they lost in the super regional. Now they're trying to once again be a really good team, which they are, but they're trying to get out of their regional, get to the super regional, and make it to the College World Series. I think at this point, if they lose anywhere before the College World Series, I'm not saying the season is a disappointment. I'm not saying the season was all for nothing, but it would be disappointing. Obviously, that outcome would be disappointing. And so the hope would be Arkansas would make it that far. And once they get to that point, then it's job well done. It's good luck from there on. Are they a team that could possibly win the national championship? Yes, they're the number 4 overall team in the country. They can do that. Are they also a team that could lose their own regional like we've seen in the past? that's also true. So quickly, again, before we go on, Oklahoma State and Indiana, possibly the teams at Arkansas that could stump Arkansas from potentially making it on to the Super Regional. You have to remember Oklahoma State, and again, this was back in the fall, but back in the fall in October, Arkansas and Oklahoma State played in an exhibition game in Tulsa. What happened in that game? Oklahoma State won 6-0. So Arkansas might have a little bit of revenge on their mind, assuming they come face to face with the Cowboys, with the Cowboys in this, possibly in this regional. I mentioned Oklahoma State, obviously a really good team. They're a really good pitching team and really good fielding team. As far as pitching, Ruby Million is the one who leads the way for the Cowboys. Top 10 in the country in strikeout. She's 14th in the country in ERA. She's really good. Arkansas will obviously have to get past her to take down Oklahoma State. She pitches a lot. On Indiana's side of things, and back Oklahoma State, they're good fielding, they're really good pitching, and they're okay hitting. So that's what you need to know about Oklahoma. On the flip side, Indiana, I mentioned really good hitting. One of the best offensive teams in the country. On the flip side, obviously they were a bubble team heading into this tournament. Some thought they might not should have made it to this point where they were at. That's not because of their offense, that's because of their defense. That's because of their pitching, something they have struggled at a lot this season. So if Arkansas does get the chance to play the Hoosiers, you would expect Arkansas to put up a lot of runs. You'd expect it to be a very high-scoring game. And if history serves Arkansas correctly as far as this season, they've had a lot of run rule victories, a lot of times where they can score a lot of runs, hit a lot of home runs, including Bri Ellis. And that kind of leads into my last point before we move on to hear what Coach Deifel said about what the draw she has here. Some keys to winning. My 3 big keys to winning for Arkansas in this regional to advance to the Super Regional to possibly face off against Arizona or Ole Miss most likely. The first one is pitching. Robin Herron has to be the ace that she is. We've seen at times this season she hasn't been what many thought she might be as far as growth and as far as dominance. But at other times this season, we have seen that dominance. So what you want to see out of Robin Herron, obviously, is her to dominate the game. She has the potential to be one of the best college softball pitchers. And if she plays that way, Arkansas will have no problem getting out of this regional and making it onto the Super Regional. Robin Herron has to keep being the ace that she is. The second point, defensively, they have to keep it up. They're second in the country in fielding percentage. Ella McDowell really helps that out, the freshman third baseman for the Razorbacks. They got Atalia Rijo at shortstop, Carly Davison at second base, and then Bri Ellis is a stud at first base. If you've seen Bri Ellis highlights, you see her hit bombs, but she's a really good fielder as well and a really good first baseman. They've got a lineup in the infield that is really special and is special enough to get them all the way to the College World Series. They need to keep that up in this regional because they are the best team. Out of all these teams, they are the best team. They just need to play like it. And then my final big point, I mentioned Bri Ellis, and yes, she is very vital, very important to this Arkansas team, but I feel like everyone kind of knows that. So my point, my last 3 of the keys to win is actually Reagan Johnson, the leadoff hitter for Arkansas this entire season. The slapper has a .367 batting average this season, and for her, she needs to continue having the big games that she's had in the past. She has a unique style of play, being a slapper, being the speedster that she is, being the defensive weapon that she is in center field. They need her to play her best as well because when she gets on base, which is pretty often, that sets it up for the rest of the lineup, including Bri Ellis, to also have a really good game. So those are some of the things I think Arkansas needs to do well in order to win their regional here and advance to the Super Regional. Let's hear from head coach Courtney Deifel now on what she had to say about this regional, about the draw they got in the NCAA tournament.
We're pretty confident that we were going to get Oklahoma State and St. Louis. So the question more so was, who was our 3 seed going to be? And so that one was the surprise to us. But we knew the other 2 were probably gonna be here as the day kind of unfolded and the weekend unfolded. So it's going to be a tough region. I think there's really good teams, so it's going to be tough. But everything's tough this time of year, and so that's what we expect.
And so the first tough challenge for the Razorbacks will be Friday, 5:30. Unfortunately, not nationally televised, so it will be on ESPN+. Obviously, that game starting at 5:30, so we'll have highlights on our 10 o'clock broadcast on Friday, so make sure you tune back in for that. But I didn't talk much about St. Louis. With all due respect to them, I don't know if they're worth talking about. I expect Arkansas to get past the 4 seed in this tournament. Arkansas, if you want to bubble it down to the regional, Arkansas the 1 seed, St. Louis the 4 seed. Arkansas is the better team, as I mentioned, against a lot of teams in the country. They're the better team against St. Louis. Hopefully they can rule them, take advantage of a St. Louis team that has been good this year, won their conference tournament. Yoo-hoo, good for them. But Arkansas needs to get past them in order to advance to play one of the really good teams in Oklahoma State or Indiana.